Hello everybody, Camelia here. I want to show you how to add the exposed zipper in the McCalls 8121, and I'm going to show you what I did in my own, or what I'm doing in my own jacket, because I'm really going to work on the second sleeve for this. So I want to show you first where I'm going with this tutorial. So the end result is going to be the exposed zipper in the sleeve, and behind the zipper is going to be a piece of fabric, a little gusset, and that's going to protect my clothes against the zipper, and also my skin if I'm wearing a short sleeve, let's say, under this jacket. And also I'm going to show you how to make this perfect opening here with a really nice corners, and really easy to make actually. And I'm going to show you first the materials you need. So I have here my zipper, which is already shortened on the length I needed to have. I did make it here at the end a little bit too short, but I do have what is interesting is to have the stops here that are going to come at the hem, of course. And at this point you could also baste the zipper tape to the back, and that's going to make everything a little bit easier. But I'm just going to work with them like this and fold them as I'm sewing. So I have the zipper, and then for the few details that I changed, you will need, if you want to make this, you'll need a piece of fabric. And because I'm going to turn it in such a way that the facing of that opening is going to be all the way to the back, you'll see nothing. As you can see here, I used the same printed fabric, but there is nothing to be seen on the front side, so it doesn't really matter what you are using. Use a piece of cotton, is going to work much easier than a piece of slippery lining. So a piece of fabric for the facing of the opening. And to give you the measurements, I am making a size, I think it's a size 14 if I'm not wrong. And I used, actually, is the length of the opening plus maybe 1.5 centimeter is not really important how long, must be of course a little bit longer than the opening. And in this case is let's see, is 6 centimeters by 19, so you can make it 6 centimeters by 20. It's going to be plenty. And here I have my gusset, and to be honest, you know, I tried a few widths here at the hem part, but finally I decided to use these measurements, and my final gusset is 19 centimeters, exactly the same length as the facing, and at the hem is 5 centimeter with going to almost 3 at the top. And I was careful to notch to mark where my hem allowance is going to be, because this is very important, as here you have to place the stops on your zipper, because you start attaching first the zipper on your gusset all the way around, and the whole thing is going to be attached in the opening of the sleeve. So again, I decided that I wanted to have here down 5 centimeters and here around 3. And of course this is the middle, actually, where this is the middle of the zipper. But it's important to measure the width of the hem, which is 1.5 inch in this case. 2 small notches here, and then I'm ready to go. And this is everything I need to put this zipper in my sleeve. The first thing what I'm going to do is to sew the sleeves, the sleeve pieces, and I'm just going to put them right size together, and I'm just going to sew from here to the top of the sleeve with the included 1.5 centimeter seam allowance, and I'm going to meet you back in a second. Okay, so I have my seam is sewn with the standard 1.5 centimeter seam allowance, what I have in my pattern, exactly as in the pattern, sewn from the splits here all the way up. Pressed open, I use the clapper to make it nice to stay flat. And now I am going to start by attaching this little piece of cotton. You need to have a really soft, not soft, but thin fabric. As I said, a cotton is working really nice. And there are a lot of possibilities here to face this opening, but the one I used for the other sleeve, I found it really easy to do. So I have here the facing. I just fold it in half to get a little bit of a crease here. And what is important is to align this crease. I hope you can see you cannot see it, but it's here, to align the crease here with the hem and the other end with the sleeve seam. And I am going to try to keep the pieces together. I am going to sew this from the other side. And why? I find it really easier. I'm just going to put some pins here to keep it in place. It's not really very important to have it in the middle, but you need to have enough here seam allowance, you know, to sew and then to turn. So try to keep it flat on the table, and then everything is going to stay in place. And then when I'm turning this, why I want to do that? Because then I can sew this with a seam allowance really nicely. I will see on my machine where I have the 6mm seam allowance. I can also split that facing piece, and then you have also the same thing, but I'm just going to keep it in one piece, the facing, and then later cut it. I'm going to put some pins here on this side now. Doesn't really matter how I put them. What is important, let me put here also two, and I can take these ones away. Did I put one here? I need to have here one at the top. And now I can take these ones away. So as I said, you can also cut this in advance. So here I have it. Now I can sew this with a 6mm seam allowance and going up here for around 1 centimeter. Sorry, for 6mm. Come back again downstairs, all the way back to the hem. To be sure that I'm going to have that exactly 6mm seam allowance, I'm going to use my 1/4 inch foot. And if I was to have only the normal foot, I would have choose I don't know, a guide here on my foot, and maybe even move the needle to find it easier to follow the 6mm seam allowance. But I have this foot, so I'm going to use it. So bear with me because the camera is sitting a little bit in the way. So I'm going to start sewing again. Try to keep the things a little bit aligned. I'm going to start sewing with a 6mm seam allowance here, and I'm just going to sew. As I said, that little piece, that facing, is going to be cut in a moment, but I find it easier to work like this. And actually the most important thing is when arriving here at where the seam of the sleeve is starting, you really need to tell your stitches when you turn the corner to be sure that you have equal amounts on both sides of this seam. And what is also important is that you also don't go more than 6mm from the split here into the seam, as that is the seam allowance here up, and otherwise the zipper is not going to fit. Okay, so let's see. You could mark to see exactly where the 6mm seam allowance is. I did not mark on mine, and I don't really trust my let's see, I have here my marker, my measuring tool, so I know I need to take a few stitches now, and that will be, I think, I can turn to see if I am I'm good here with a 6 mm mark on my foot. So now I'm going to take that pin away out here, and I'm just going to turn, and I need to count my stitches now. So I have 1, 2, and the third one is in the seam. Let me see, go back a little bit, and I need to take this one out, and I have 1, 2, and let's see how much I need to get my seam. I think it's going to be just a little bit, put my seam to a 1.5. Let's see, how am I? Oh, I think I'm good like this. Put it back to 2.5, and I'm just going to come down back to the hem, keeping the seam allowance of the sleeve part and not watching so much as what is happening here in between. And you should interface this area. I think in the instructions there is no interfacing. Really bad. I'll never do this without interfacing. So this is what I have now. This is what I have on this part. As you can see, my stitching line is here. So what I need to do now is to cut this little face. I'm going to cut from here because I need to cut exactly in between. And I'm going to stop exactly here where my seam is starting. And now what I can do, and I'm going to do it from this side because I can really see here, I'm going to snip into the corners. Of course I have here right sides together, and I'm sewing this on the right side of the fabric. I'm going to make a note to this in the beginning. So the most important thing is, of course, to cut exactly to this corner, and then exactly to this other corner, not through your stitches. And this is what I have now. And of course now it's coming the most important part, which is turning this facing to the inside. And because I have here a really visible contrasting fabric, let's see what I want to do first. I'm going to press this to the side to get a nice crease here, and then I'm going to press this bit a little bit down, and then I'm going to turn it and press this one also. And again, having interfaced this area, of course, is going to give me a really sturdy seam to work with, and it's not going to unravel and do crazy stuff on me. I'm going to press this whole thing to bring it to the back of the sleeve. And what is now really, really important, I'm going to press this facing, favoring just a little bit of letting just a little bit of the fashion fabric coming through the back of my sleeve. Let's see, I think you can see here, and this, but really just a smidge. And by doing that, it's going to assure me that I have no picking of this fabric to the other side. Take your time to press this, and in a moment I'm going to press those little corners too. Just a little bit of steam, a little bit pressing with your fingers. And for the little corners here, bring the facing to the back And you'll do the same, because I cut really nicely into that corner. I can really mold this to stay to the inside. And of course, if you really want to play safe, you can use a piece of fabric that is really close to your fashion fabric, and that is going to, I don't know, give you a little bit of cheating space. But if you cut into the corner really nice and really well without being afraid, it's not necessary to have matching fabric. And I will show you in a moment from the other side. I'm almost done. I'm always using my fingers. I have my iron on 2, so it's not really burning my fingers. So this is what I have now. Let's see. I can also use, I don't have really an original clapper, but I have a piece of wood which I can use here. As you can see, it's staying immediately in place. So now if I'm turning this, and maybe it's not going to be from the first time perfect, but you can turn it back and press it again. So this is what I have now. As you can see, there is no fabric picking because cutting these corners are really important. What this facing is also doing is that you don't have here the chance of that the wool is going to start unraveling or stuff like that. It's really dangerous here when you cut these little corners. But anyway, interfacing is really, really important. So now I have this, and I'm going to prepare the zipper with the little gusset. So I have here the gusset and the zipper, which is on the right length. So the zipper is going to come in the end here, like so, exactly in the middle of the seam. And if I did my measuring correctly, this stops should be at 1.5 inches exactly from my, oops, you cannot see this. This stops of the zipper should be exactly at 1.5 inches from the edge, from the hem, because in the end, so I'm going to top stitch this. Let's see, this is going to come really nicely like this. So to do this, so if you were to avoid or to skip the gusset, you can go now, after making the facing, you can go on and just put your zipper in. Of course, it's possible. I would put it in, put some pins, and then just top stitch it with a really, let's say maybe 1 or 2 millimeters from the edge here. It will be really, really nice. These edges are not going to curl, so top stitch it really closed against next to the fold here, and that's going to be ready then to be further worked as in the instructions. But now, because I want to put the gusset, I'm going to put the sleeve for a moment away. What I want to do now is to match this notch here and this one here. This is the gusset, this is the right side of the fabric, and I want to put the zipper with the stop exactly on this notch here. And this is where I'm going to start sewing, and I'm going to, it's not really important, but I'm going to sew around 6 millimeters from the edge, and I'm going to align my zipper with the edge of the gusset. I'm going to use my zipper foot and just stitch around here. Of course, I need to match here also this one. Let's see, my notch is there and my stop is also here. Okay, you can see the pin is exactly at the notch, And now I'm going to sew this around, and it's going to be ready to be inserted. Again, the zipper is opening to the top of the gusset, so I'm going to stitch this with my machine. So I have my zipper foot on, and I repositioned the pins here so I can start stitching. Just going to open this, and I'm going to align the edge of my zipper with the edge of the lining. As you can see, my lining is completely falling apart. I hope I'll still have something to grab on when I'm going to sew the hem here. So it's important here to swing these ends a little bit when starting sewing. And just going to put my presser foot down, and I think I want to have my needle a little bit in, or not. Not really, it's not really important. Okay, so just swing those ends a little bit, and I'm just going to stitch. This stitch line, it shouldn't be against the or very close to the teeth, because this whole piece is going to be top stitched later in the sleeve. So as I'm approaching here the stop, I'm just going to stop a little bit, pull the zipper down. Again, not very important when I'm stopping here. Coming to this part, as you can see here, this the point of the or the top of the gusset should be a little bit the same width as your zipper tapes together. Going to stop here, and what I want to do now, I want to pull this gusset back here from underneath. It is going to meet my zipper nicely. A little bit fiddly here before I go back to opening the zipper back, like so. Again, and again, I'm coming back. Again, swing a little bit out. So this is what I have at the moment, and this is going to be top stitch into the sleeve, and I'm going to let my zipper foot in. So I have here the zipper with the gusset. As you can see, it's completely sewn, and I want to place it exactly here, being careful that where the tapes are meeting are exactly aligning, so that will be the middle of the zipper is exactly in the middle of my seam. And I'm going to pin this through the zipper tape. And what I want to do next is to align this really nicely, and I'm going to top stitch. See, I'm going to top stitch really close to the fold of this opening, and you'll see what a nice result is giving. Don't go 6 millimeters away or something like that. Don't go even 3 millimeters away. Go as close as you can. So I'm going to pin this, and then I can sew this together. So in this case, I really want to move my needle as much as possible to that fold. Let's see, maybe, I don't know, maybe not more than 1 millimeter next to the fold I'm going to stitch, and I'm going to just start stitching now. Sometimes I need to put my differential feed on. Let's see where my thread is. Yes. And Okay. Maybe it doesn't want to go immediately. Okay. So I'm just going to stitch here, or top stitch, let's say, through all layers. So the gusset, the zipper, and the sleeve. And you'll see by sewing so close to that fold, you have a really neat, I don't know, edge at the end. Very professional. So this is how it's looking now. Oops. It's functional. It's really nice, as you can see by stitching it really close to the fold. You have a really nice and flat edge here, and this is from behind. Of course, you could trim these facing pieces maybe with pinking shears, or just trim them away, because this is going to be, everything is going to be hidden into the sleeve by the lining. So later, at a later stage, this is going to come like so, and it's going to be really nice. So about the lining, I'm going to show you the changes I made. In order to have the lining now fitting into my new sleeve with the gusset, because now the sleeve is ready to be sewn at the underseam, to be sewn closed. So now I will need a lining that is in the round as the hem of my sleeve. So to do that, I used the same lining pieces that I have from the original pattern, and as you can see here, the original has, of course, that little cut out here, where you have to cut this in a corner and then turn it and stitch it at the edge or inside against the zipper tape to finish the zipper with the lining. But because now I have a round completely in the at the hem, I need also a round sleeve, and I have it here. I made already one. As you can see, it's completely stitched. In the round, I'd have no slit as in the original. To do that, you have to add here at the hem, where that slit was, you have to add, of course, back the seam allowance, the 1.5 centimeter that is for the rest of the sleeve. So 1.5 centimeter plus the width of that gusset. So I know that my gusset has, this is without the seam allowance, this was a little bit the width of my gusset. I just measured, I think it was a little bit, let's see, 1.5 centimeter. So whatever you have here at the hem in the gusset, you have to split in two and to add it here at the edge of the sleeve, plus the original 1.5 centimeter seam allowance, which they took away for the slit. And then you'll just sew this as a normal seam with 5/8 of an inch, and then you have your sleeve lining complete that I'm going to put in the lining of my jacket, and then I'm going to back everything out. Maybe I'm going to make a video to show you how I'm doing that without having any hand stitching like in the original pattern. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you will try this. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and give me thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Bye!